But some of our metrics are saying is peak viewership for the May 30th joint NASA SpaceX launch broadcast across all of our platforms was at least 10.3 million concurrent viewers, the most watched event we've ever tracked.
So I think it is impressive, and I think a lot of people saw it. I think the whole world saw it, and we're very proud of that. And I just want to make sure that we can continue to congratulate the SpaceX team and the NASA team for doing amazing work, even in the midst of tough times.
And I will say those numbers are only for the NASA SpaceX. That doesn't count broadcast and other agencies and news outlets that we're talking and promoting are this incredible achievement for humanity. So we'll go to our next question. Marcia Dunn.
Elon Musk since stalking, and if so, if you've heard from him and how he's dealing with all the Elon Musk since stalking, and if so, if you've heard from him and how he's
anyone has other questions, please press star
dealing with
1
all
to be
the
added
good
to the
news
queue.
today.
Marcia,
Thank you.
Marcia, can you repeat your question? We think we missed the first half of it. And if
wondering
anyone
if
has
you've had
other
a
questions,
chance
please
to
press
touch
star
base
1
with
to be
Elon
added to the
Musk
queue. But
since
Marcia, if you could
stalking,
please repeat your question.
And if so, yes, for Mr. Bridenstine, I'm wondering if you've had a chance to touch base with Elon Musk since the docking,
a few hours ago.
and
I've not
if
had
so,
the opportunity to speak with
what do
Elon
you think
Musk,
about it?
that
Thank
will
you.
be I have not. Since the docking occurred a few hours ago, I've not had the opportunity to speak with Elon Musk, but that will be coming up, I would assume, in a few hours.
Are extremely happy. Their engineers, and I can just say from the whole SpaceX team, I've talked to a lot of their leadership. They're just ecstatic. Their mission directors are extremely happy. Their engineers, the lead of the Dragon production, his vehicle did it outstanding in these first 24 hours of the mission. So, when you talk to the SpaceX employees, they're very proud of what they've done. They've worked very hard, and they're excited to have the space behind.
I guess we've done so many great media events throughout the last few days. I know we've tried to give as many.
If there's any other questions right now, we've gone through most of our questions. I guess we've done so many great media events throughout the last few days. I know we've tried to give as many access to reporters. If anyone has a question, you could please press star 1 to be added to the queue.
We've gotten a lot of questions like what's happening with the astronauts. We heard
in the meantime,
just recently.
We'll say, I know the administrator. We've gotten a lot of.
We've gotten a lot of questions like what's happening with the astronauts. We heard them just recently. Thankfully, through the downlink that we spoke to them on mission control. Any thoughts on that, or Guy, or anyone that's joining us on the panel of what the astronauts are doing now, what's going on in the next few weeks, and what's going to happen now that they're part of the ISS team?
So yeah, there's a great video of them. Yeah, maybe I could speak to that. It was great to see them all together. I know Chris was looking forward to having help. So yeah, there's a great video of them together.
Let's make sure Dragon.
I think the key part now is, as Steve said, the vehicle is there, the crew's on board. That was the main thing. Let's make sure Dragon and the mission is going well. And Kenny can speak to this. There are some options for Bob and Doug, some actions for them to help Chris while they're there, and that will be part of the assessment, as well as making sure, though, that we have a landing plan, since this is the first flight, that we have a safe and fairly straightforward landing plan for Bob and Doug, and that's what the team will be fleshing out next week.
I can talk a little bit about a few of the major objectives for us still remaining, other than characterizing the vehicle. We have a test, I believe it's going to be planned for sometime next week, where we're going to get 4 crew members in Dragon, just to see how that works from a habitability perspective. While we're on orbit, operating in zero G is a little different than on the ground, so we'll do that. We've got a test plan. There's a mode of Dragon where you can actually go into it. If a station were to have a problem temporarily, you can transition into Dragon and stay there for a period of time for 24 hours as what we call a safe haven. We're going to test that out here in the next week. We'll do some tests of some of the other emergency systems on Dragon and other cruise systems. And then I think I'll hand it over to Kenny. So we have a few of those things planned over the next week to get some of our test objectives done. Again, for us, it's still a test flight. And then I think I'll hand it over to Kenny, and he can talk about some of the activities stations planning over the next few weeks.
Thanks, Steve.
Yes, we are now starting to integrate the plan between what we need to do for the Dragon
again, get a little
crew
step
vehicle,
closer to
what kind of things we need to learn, the test objectives that are specific to the commercial crew program and the SpaceX team that'll help them again get a little step closer to being able to support the Crew 1 mission needs. But in addition to that, we have a couple of spacewalkers on who have an incredible amount of experience being outside station. And so we are blessed at this point with a whole new set of lithium-ion batteries that just arrived on the HTV vehicle. And so that's going to take somewhere on the order of 4 to 5 EVAs to install those. And so at this point, we are looking at all options that could allow us to do those EVAs while we have Bob and Doug on board and get those lithium-ion batteries installed in their permanent home. Certainly, they're fine where they're at, but I do worry. This is fairly expensive hardware. The batteries that are currently installed on station on S6 are the last set of batteries that we need to replace with these new lithium-ion batteries. Those batteries are in good shape at this point, but the fact of the matter is we have the new batteries up there. When the HTV goes away, we're basically going to have to temp stow these new batteries, and it would be in our best interest to go ahead and have those batteries installed and have that work behind us and not have these assets basically in this temporary holding pattern, if you will. So that's something we're going to be looking at as we start to put the requirements together for what we need to do with the commercial crew program, as well as what we need to do with these batteries and some of the other things on station. But in addition to that, anytime we have more than a single crew member on board, we're in a much better position when it comes to dealing with any kind of issues, failures that might come up. So again, that's part of the balance, the risk balance that we have to strike in terms of trying to look at what we want to try to accomplish on this mission versus trying to get these guys safely home sooner rather than later, and again start working towards the Crew 1 mission.
And I would just add from a crew perspective that I know that Bob and Doug are just excited to be on low Earth orbit, successfully docked to the space station, and I think at this point they can breathe a sigh of relief. You know, launch, of course, is an incredibly dynamic phase of flight. Meeting all of the manual flying objectives, having the opportunity to fly a spaceship in low Earth orbit, both away from the station and then closer to the station, to demonstrate that capability, and then to have a successful docking and to come through that hatch, that at this point they can relax a little bit and enjoy being on the International Space Station, having that opportunity to look out the window, to see the Earth below, to float, to maybe have a meal with the crew that's on board that they just joined. I know they're doing a safety brief right now, and I recall doing that, meeting up with Scott Kelly and the rest of the crew members that were on board during my expedition, and going through all of the emergency equipment, kind of being shown, hey, this is where the toilet is, this is where you're staying, this is where the food is, kind of crossing off all of those important items, and then having that opportunity to just get used to floating in space, being in that weightless environment. Bob and Doug, of course, are veteran space flyers, so that readaptation process will happen very quickly. But I know that they're enjoying being in low Earth orbit and looking forward to the work ahead. But at this point, kind of reflecting on the incredible experience, the incredible past 24 hours, and the team at NASA, at SpaceX, their family and friends that really helped them get up there.
Thank you so much. I know, Mr. You were talking earlier about what's next with the program. Anything to add on that?
Obviously, you know, we've had a big agenda to commercialize low Earth orbit. That's underway. Certainly, we are launching American astronauts commercially. We need SpaceX to go get customers that are not NASA. We've already seen evidence of that, which is a very positive thing for the agency because it's going to drive down our costs in the long run. We need to get another commercial partner on board. Boeing is working towards that, that objective with NASA, and I think that we're going to have success there within the next year. We think about really why are we doing these commercial public-private partnerships? Well, we're doing it because we're changing the business model. If the government is providing all of the demand for human spaceflight, and then the government is providing all of the supply for human spaceflight, we will always be limited by budgets. And many times those budgets are whimsical, based on the desires of the politicians that happen to be in those roles at the time. So if we want to have a sustainable, long-term exploration campaign that includes not just government money but also private money, we have to build these partnerships, and we're doing it. It's proving to be successful. Costs are coming down, access is going up, and we don't want to just stay in low Earth orbit. We want to go to the moon and onto Mars. That's going to require more investment, and of course, as we commercialize low Earth orbit, more resources will be available for the moon program. We call it Artemis, and eventually Mars. And so that's really the future that we're looking towards. We need to be focused on how we use the International Space Station for a commercialization effort, so that private capital will flow in, again, with public-private partnerships, to the point where not just experiments are privately funded, but also space stations themselves are privately funded. And of course, the Johnson Space Center here, where we are right now, is going to be a leader in that effort. And of course, when we go to the moon, we want to be able to stay. And in order to achieve that, we need commercial partners on the surface of the moon. And to that end, the President recently signed an executive order saying that the resources that are extracted from the moon are available to the people who extract those resources. And that follows many, many years of law and precedent as it relates to international waters. Resources extracted from international waters belong to the individuals who extract those resources. And that should apply to the moon and other celestial bodies as well. To be clear, the United States of America will always, always, always follow the Outer Space Treaty. And the moon and other celestial bodies cannot be appropriated for national sovereignty, just like the ocean cannot be appropriated for national sovereignty. Although some nations don't follow that, that is the international law. And so we want to apply American values as we go forward. To do that, the Artemis program, we have established what we call the Artemis Accords, which establishes how we expect nations to behave in space for the sustainability of exploration, standards of behavior that make sure that not just this generation, but many generations that come after us will be able to continue exploring space and going further, and be able to go further than ever before. So today it's about low Earth orbit. Tomorrow it's about the moon. And of course, we want to stay at the moon for long periods of time. We want to learn how to live and work on the moon. We want to go with commercial partners, international partners, and use the resources of the moon to live and work for long periods of time, and then apply that architecture, apply that learning at Mars as well. So the vision is big. NASA's budget today is as high as it's ever been in nominal dollars. Maybe not in real dollars if we go back to Apollo, but maybe we can get there soon too. The budget request for 2021 is $25.2 billion, which is a $3 billion increase in 1 year. And so our budgets are going up. They're going up rapidly. My job is to make sure that we have the bipartisan, apolitical support to achieve these objectives. And so far we have been able to do that. But going to the moon and on to Mars is going to be a tough challenge. And we don't want to go alone. We want to go with international partners, and we want to go with commercial partners. And that's really what the Artemis program is laying the foundation for. And really, it's in fact what the commercial program has already begun laying the foundation for. So the agenda is big, and our ambitions are big, but certainly this nation can lead. And we want to lead in space. We want to build a coalition that can work together to achieve these stunning achievements. We've started that with the International Space Station, but there's a lot of room for more. We've got 15 countries that operate the ISS, and there's a lot more countries that want to join us, and certainly we want them to be a part of it as well. So the future is very bright.
Great. We have a next question from Mike Wallace, and if you want to ask a question, you press *1. Mike Wallace?
Hi there, Mike Wall, Space.com. Thank you guys. Yeah, this is a very exciting day. I just want to say congratulations to everybody. I was just wondering, Kenny, this is probably for Kenny. Like, have you heard anything from the international partners kind of based on this milestone? And what are their thoughts about having another private spaceship coming up to the space station, and how it could that kind of theoretically be used by the international partners on the space station? Thank you.
You bet, Mike, and that's a gret question. I've heard from all of our international partner contacts this morning. As you know, most of the partners are represented here in Houston. They have liaisons here, which again helps to facilitate our communication back and forth on a day-to-day basis. But they've been part of this entire effort that led to the mission that we've all experienced over the last 24 hours. And to a partner, they have been nothing but supportive. And after the docking today, again, I heard from every one of those partners, all of them basically cheering us on and talking about the historic nature of not just yesterday, but the entire time period that led up to the docking today. So I think they all felt like they were part of something. There was something big and something grand and something that really was a next step, which, as the administrator said, we're trying to do the next steps with partners, and be they commercial or international, and the set of partners that we work with on the International Space Station applaud these kind of efforts like what we're doing, and are very supportive, and we're certainly working with them as part of our coalition of partners to identify opportunities for them to fly on these vehicles as well. So yes, again, we're just going to move forward from here, and the partnership's going with us, and they're going to be part of this effort to continue flying these commercial vehicles to station.
Thank you. I have a question that came in from Joey Roulette. His question is NASA still in negotiations to fly a Russian cosmonaut on Crew Dragon, and when do you expect to lock down a deal?
Well, the answer is yes. Those are discussions that we're continuing to have within the international partnership. As you know, up to this point, we have been purchasing seats from our Russian colleagues flying on their Russian Soyuz vehicles. But certainly we are working in a direction to come up with a different arrangement, if you will, that will allow us to fly on each other's vehicles, and therefore ensure that at any given time that we have somebody that's represented on the Russian segment as well as somebody that's on the USOS segment, regardless of the vehicle that's carrying people to station. So those are active, ongoing discussions. I anticipate, those discussions are going to continue to progress forward, especially as we continue to see more successes with these missions with Steve, Kathy, and the Commercial Crew Program. So absolutely, those are active discussions, and again, we'll continue to head in that direction.
Great. Our next question is from Marina Corinne. Marina?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, great. Question about Doug. After he entered the space station, we saw him dabbing at his forehead, and then someone got him a tissue. Poor guy looked like he hit his head on the way out. Is that what happened? Did he start bleeding, and is he okay?
Yeah, I can take that one. I mean, yeah, Doug did, as he was coming through, he bumped his head. Chell could probably talk to this. It happens sometimes while you're on station. He's fine. He looked great in the press conference. It just is one of those things. I think Chell talked about adapting, right, as you get your space legs underneath you. He was in a relatively small vehicle for the first 19 hours or so. Then he went into a big vehicle, and he bumped his head a little bit, but he's doing fine.
And I haven't had a chance to chat with Doug yet, of course, but I can tell you that for those of us, especially first-time flyers, it takes, I think, a good 4 to 6 weeks to really adapt to that weightless environment. And as the veteran crew on board, when you have new folks coming aboard, and I know for myself that as I translated through those long modules for the first time, I would leave cameras and equipment, be knocking those off of the wall. And so it definitely takes a little bit of time to get your space legs. I know Bob and Doug will transition very quickly, but it was awesome to see them coming through that forward hatch. We haven't seen that for many years, and we're looking forward to many more crews coming through that forward and the overhead hatch as well.
Thank you. We'll do our last question from Marcia Dunn.
Yes, hi, either for Steve or Kenny. When do you anticipate deciding whether to proceed with the spacewalks, and how quickly could you start kicking them off? Would this be June, do you think, or would you wait till July? Thanks a lot.
Hi, Marcia. We're still having those discussions. If we head down this path, it's most likely going to be towards the end of June. We'd consider doing some upfront work ahead of this mission to start laying the groundwork for that, but decided against that just to make sure that we got the crew on orbit, and that way we weren't in this constant sort of replan in case we were having technical issues or weather issues and so forth. So we made the decision that we would wait till the crew got on board and then start to lay some of these upfront items in the plan. So we've got about another week and a half, and then you'll start to see some build up. And again, you won't see it, but there will be things that will start to happen in the direction of preparing for some EVAs that'll kick off around the end of June. I would tell you at this point, I would call that very preliminary planning, just because, again, we need to work with Steve and the rest of the agency leadership and make sure that we're well calibrated on how we want to approach the next few weeks with this Dragon on board, and making sure that we're learning everything that we can, and that we've got all the right priorities in place. But in order for us to do some EVAs, we probably got about a week and a half, and then we'll need to start that ramp up in order to get out the hatch by about the end of June. And if we do head in that direction, we'll probably go on 6-day centers, with the exception of the middle of July timeframe, where we've got a high beta period, where the sun angle on the station, really it's just because of the power issues that we have in those time frames, we probably would steer clear of trying to do an EVA in that time frame. But anyway, that's the general thinking. I would call it more at the 10,000 foot level at this point, as opposed to the 200 foot level, but hopefully that helps.
Thank you so much. We're going to close it out with closing remarks from our administrator.
Well, thank you, Bettina. I just want to again congratulate the NASA team and congratulate the SpaceX team. This has been a long time in the making, and I think it's been really astonishing to see how it came together. NASA set what the requirements were, and those requirements were based on payload and based on safety, and then our commercial partners innovated. And we got very unique solutions, one from SpaceX and one from Boeing. And as of right now, the SpaceX solution is attached to the International Space Station, and we will be working day in and day out to make sure that it comes home safely with our astronauts. And we will continue working with Boeing to make sure that they are successful as well, because they have had significant milestones that are impressive, and we need to get them across the finish line. So I just want to say congratulations to the commercial crew program. Steve Stitch, you and your team, and Kathy Leaders have done just amazing work, and we are so grateful to you, and we're grateful to the SpaceX team as well. And here we go. We're back. We're launching America. So thank you for everybody who paid attention to this really, I think, monumental achievement, and we've got more to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. It concludes our press conference. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Sunny Williams. I'm up here on the International Space Station. Now, I want to say where we are. So right now, we're in the Japanese laboratory. It's one laboratory out of many here on the International Space Station. It's actually on the left-hand side. If I was the International Space Station and I was flying through space like